The mud was cold. That's what Maya Chen remembered most about that morning. Not the shouting instructors or the other recruits struggling beside her. Just the cold, wet earth pressed against her cheek as she lay perfectly still in the darkness. It was 4 a.m, and she'd been in this position for 3 hours. Her body screamed at her to move, to shift even an inch, but she didn't. Couldn't. This was the test. Week 11 of Scout Sniper School. And they were down to 23 people from the original 47 who'd started. She focused on her breathing. Slow. Controlled. Her father had taught her that when she was 12 years old, standing in their backyard in Pennsylvania with an old rifle and a row of tin cans lined up on the fence. Breathing is everything, he'd told her in his accented English, his hands steady on her shoulders. You control your breath, you control the shot. You control the shot, you control everything else. Her father knew about control. He'd been a soldier once back in Vietnam, before everything fell apart and his family had to run. He never talked much about those days, but sometimes late at night, Maya would hear him on the back porch just sitting there in the dark. She understood now what he'd been thinking about all those nights. Chen, you sleeping down there? The instructor's boot stopped inches from her face. She didn't flinch, didn't even blink, just kept her breathing steady and her eyes on the target 700 meters downrange. No, sir, she said quietly. Then take your shot. Her finger found the trigger. She'd done this 1,000 times, but it never got old. That moment between deciding and doing. That split second where everything hung in balance. The rifle kicked against her shoulder. Downrange, the target pinged. Direct hit. Good shot, Chen. Now do it again. And again. And keep doing it until you can do it in your sleep in a storm with someone shooting back at you. That was 3 months ago. Now Maya stood in Colonel Briggs's office, her orders in hand. Deployment. 6 months, maybe more. Location classified, but everyone knew what that meant. The Middle East. The real thing. Briggs was old-school military with gray hair cut sharp and eyes that had seen too much. He studied her for a long moment before speaking. You know what you signed up for, Chen? Yes, sir. I don't think you do. He leaned back in his chair. Out there, you're not just a shooter. You're the eyes, the early warning system. You see something 3,000 meters out and you better make the right call because people are going to live or die based on what you do next. Maya felt something tighten in her chest. Not fear exactly. More like recognition. This was what she'd been training for. What she'd wanted since the day her little brother Tommy died. Tommy had been 17. Wrong place, wrong time. Just walking home from basketball practice when someone decided to start shooting. Random violence, the police called it. Like that made it better somehow. Like random meant it didn't count. Maya had been in college then, studying engineering, living a normal life. After Tommy's funeral, she couldn't go back to normal. Couldn't sit in class learning about bridges and buildings when her brother was gone, because someone with a gun didn't care who they hit. So she joined the Marines. Her parents didn't understand. Her mother cried. Her father just looked at her with those dark, sad eyes and nodded once. He understood. I know what I'm doing, sir, Maya said to Briggs. We'll see about that. He handed her a file. Your unit deploys in 2 weeks. Get your affairs in order. The flight was long, too long. 19 hours crammed in a military transport with 60 other Marines, all trying to sleep, all pretending they weren't nervous. Maya sat by the window and watched the darkness outside, thinking about all the ways this could go wrong. She'd studied the statistics. Scout snipers had one of the highest casualty rates in the military. Not because they weren't good at their jobs, but because their jobs put them in impossible situations, alone or in pairs, often miles from backup, watching enemy positions for days at a time. The guy next to her was reading a letter. She could see tears on his face, but he was trying to hide them. New wedding ring on his finger. Maya looked away, giving him privacy. She didn't have anyone writing her letters. No boyfriend or girlfriend waiting at home. Just her parents and the memory of Tommy. Maybe that made it easier. Maybe it made it harder. She wasn't sure anymore. They landed at dawn. The heat hit her like a physical thing when the cargo door opened. Dry, intense, suffocating. Welcome to the desert. The forward operating base was exactly what she expected. Concrete barriers, guard towers, temporary buildings that looked like they might blow away in a strong wind. Home for the next 6 months. Her commanding officer, Captain Rodriguez, met her at the operations center. He was younger than she expected, maybe 30, with the kind of calm demeanor that came from seeing combat. Chen, good to have you. Your reputation preceded you. Top of your class at sniper school, right? Yes, sir. Forget everything you learned there. He must have seen her expression because he smiled slightly. I'm joking mostly, but seriously, training is training. This is different. Out here, the enemy doesn't follow the rules. They don't care about your perfect form or your textbook solutions. They just want to kill you first. He pulled up a map on the computer screen. Red dots scattered across the terrain like a disease. These are known hostile positions. These, he pointed to blue dots, are our patrol routes. Notice how they overlap? That's not an accident. The enemy likes to hit our convoys in these choke points. Mountains on one side, valley on the other. No way around. That's where I come in, Maya said. That's where you come in. Your job is to get up in those mountains before the convoys roll through and make sure nobody's waiting to ambush them. You'll have a spotter, a good one. Rivera. He's been here 6 months already, knows the terrain. Maya studied the map. 3,000 meters. That's what Briggs had said. That's how far she'd need to see to shoot if necessary, to make the call that would save lives or cost them. When do I start? Tomorrow morning. Oh, 400. Get some rest while you can. Rest. Right. Like that was going to happen. That night Maya lay in her bunk and listened to the sounds of the base. Generators humming. Distant voices. Somewhere someone was laughing. It seemed impossible that people could laugh here in this place, but they did. Maybe that's how you survived. You found moments of normal in the middle of chaos. She thought about her father, sitting on that back porch all those nights. Finally, she understood what he'd been doing. He'd been here in his mind. Back in the war. Back in the moments that changed him forever. And now it was her turn. Tomorrow she'd climb into those mountains. Tomorrow she'd look through her scope and watch for enemies 3,000 meters out. Tomorrow she'd become what she'd trained to be. But tonight, just for a moment, she was still Maya Chen from Pennsylvania. Still Tommy's big sister. Still her father's daughter. Trying to understand what it meant to hold a life in your crosshairs and know that your next decision mattered more than anything else in the world. She closed her eyes and tried to sleep. The cold mud seemed like a distant memory now. Out here everything was fire and dust and waiting. Rivera was not what Maya expected. For one thing, he was huge. 6'3", built like he'd played football, which she later learned he had. For another, he smiled. A real smile, like he was genuinely happy to meet her. Chen, right? Heard you can shoot. He extended a hand the size of a dinner plate. I'm Rivera. I'll be keeping you alive out there. I thought that was my job, Maya said, shaking his hand. Nah. Your job is to pull the trigger. My job is to make sure you're pulling it at the right thing, at the right time, and that nobody sneaks up behind us while you're looking through that scope. They were in the armory, checking their gear for the morning patrol. Maya had never worked with a spotter before. In training, they'd paired her with different people, but never long enough to build real trust. Rivera seemed to read her mind. You're wondering if you can count on me? Fair question. Here's what I'll tell you. I've been here 6 months. Lost 3 guys from my original unit. Not because they were bad at their jobs. Just because this place doesn't care how good you are. It'll kill you anyway if you're not careful. He wasn't smiling anymore. So yeah, you can count on me, because out there, we only got each other. Captain can't help us. Air support can't help us. It's just us, the rocks, and whoever's trying to put a bullet in our heads. That's comforting, Maya said. Wasn't meant to be comforting. Was meant to be honest. The smile came back. But hey, you made it through sniper school. You're tougher than you look. We'll be fine. The convoy left at dawn. 5 vehicles, 22 Marines heading south to resupply a smaller outpost. Maya and Rivera had left 2 hours earlier, taking a route through the mountains that would put them in position above the convoy's path. The climb was brutal. Full gear, weapons, supplies for 3 days if needed. Maya's legs burned, her lungs screamed, but she kept moving. Rivera moved like a mountain goat, somehow making it look easy despite carrying even more weight. They reached their position as the sun came up. A small cluster of rocks that gave them a perfect view of the valley below, and the road the convoy would take. Rivera set up their equipment while Maya glassed the area with her binoculars. See that ridge? Rivera pointed to a spot about 1,800 meters out. That's where they hit a convoy last month. ID buried in the road, sniper fire from the ridge. 2 killed, 5 wounded. Maya studied the ridge through her scope. Empty now, but that didn't mean anything. The enemy was patient. They'd wait days for the right moment. Contact. Rivera said quietly. 10 o'clock, 2,200 meters. 3 individuals moving along the ridgeline. Maya swung her scope over. Found them. 3 men carrying what looked like heavy packs. Moving toward the road. Could be civilians, she said. Could be. Probably aren't. Not this early, not in this area. Maya watched them through her scope. They were stopping, setting something down. Her heart rate picked up. They're placing something. IED has to be. Rivera was already on the radio. Phantom 6 to Convoy Actual, we have possible hostile activity grid coordinates. He rattled off numbers. The convoy stopped, still 5 kilometers away. Too far to see what was happening, but they trusted Maya and Rivera's eyes. Convoy Actual wants confirmation, Rivera said. Confirmation. That meant she had to be sure. Had to be absolutely certain these weren't just locals doing something innocent before she called in an airstrike, or forced the convoy to take a longer, more dangerous route. She watched. The men were digging now, carefully placing something in the ground. Then covering it up. That's an IED, she said. Confirmed hostile activity. Engaging? Rivera asked. Maya did the math in her head. 2,200 meters, extreme range but doable. Wind was light. Elevation advantage, but 3 targets moving, and the moment she fired, they'd scatter. Negative. Too far, too many variables. Call it in. Rivera relayed the information. Minutes later, they heard the distant roar of jets, an airstrike precision munitions. The ridge where the 3 men had been exploded in a cloud of dust and fire. Maya lowered her scope. Her hands were shaking. That was the first time she'd called in coordinates that resulted in people dying. She'd known this moment would come, had prepared for it, but knowing and experiencing were different things. You good? Rivera asked. Yeah, I'm good. It gets easier. Does it? Rivera was quiet for a moment. No, it doesn't, but you get better at living with it. The convoy rolled through safely. Mission success. Back at base, Captain Rodriguez congratulated them. Good eyes out there, Chen. You saved lives today. Had she? Or had she just ended different lives? Maya knew the answer was both, but that didn't make it simpler. The next few weeks fell into a rhythm. Early morning patrols, long hours watching empty valleys, occasional contacts that usually ended with the enemy disappearing before they could engage. Rivera taught her the terrain, the patterns, the little signs that something was wrong. See how the birds aren't flying over that area? That means people. Birds know. You learn to watch everything, not just your scope. They talked during the long hours. Rivera told her about his life before. College football scholarship, degree in education, planned to be a teacher. Then September 11th happened and plans changed. Figured I'd do my 4 years and get out. That was 9 years ago. He laughed, but it wasn't a happy sound. Turns out I'm better at this than teaching. Maya told him about Tommy, about her father. About why she was here, revenge? Rivera asked. Purpose, Maya corrected. There's a difference, is there? She didn't have an answer for that. Then came the message that changed everything. Intelligence briefing. High-value target. Enemy sniper, codename The Shadow. 12 confirmed kills of coalition forces. Last seen operating in their sector. Captain Rodriguez showed them the file. Not much to see. No photos, no real name. Just a pattern of deaths. Long-range shots, precision, always from positions that gave maximum advantage. He's good, Rodriguez said. Better than good? Professional level. We think he might be former military, maybe Russian-trained. He knows what he's doing. Maya studied the kill map. The Shadow's positions were carefully chosen. Always high ground, always with multiple escape routes, always at ranges that made return fire nearly impossible. He hunts snipers specifically, Rodriguez continued. He waits for our overwatch positions to set up, then he takes them out. It's personal for him. Or professional, Rivera said. Take out our snipers, our convoys are blind. Either way, he's now your primary target. You see anything that might be him, you report immediately. Do not engage without backup. This guy has killed people just as trained as you. That night, Maya couldn't sleep. She kept thinking about the Shadow. Another sniper. Another person who'd learned the same skills, the same patience, the same cold mathematics of distance and death. Somewhere out there, he was probably thinking about her too. Wondering who'd be in the mountains tomorrow. Wondering who'd see who first. Rivera found her outside looking at the mountains silhouetted against the stars. Can't sleep? Thinking about tomorrow. Don't. Think about right now. Tomorrow's got enough problems without you borrowing them tonight. You ever think about what happens when we go home? Maya asked. After all this? Rivera was quiet for a long time. Every single day. But first we gotta make it home. And that means staying sharp, staying alive, and not letting ghosts keep us up at night. He was right. But as Maya finally headed back to her bunk, she couldn't shake the feeling that something had changed. The job had been dangerous before. Now it was personal. Somewhere in those mountains was someone just like her, waiting for the perfect shot. And tomorrow, they'd both be hunting. The observation post was 15 kilometers from the nearest base. Might as well have been on the moon. Maya and Rivera, along with 2 other Marines, had hiked in during the night. Now they were tucked into a crack in the rocks overlooking a valley that intelligence said was a major enemy transit route. Their job was simple. Watch, report, and if necessary, engage. Simple on paper. Everything was simple on paper. The heat was the first enemy. By noon, the rocks were so hot you couldn't touch them with bare skin. The Marines had rigged a camouflage tarp that gave them shade but trapped the heat underneath. It was like being in an oven. "Tell me again why we do this," Rivera whispered, sweat dripping down his face. "Because someone has to," Maya said, her eye pressed to her scope, scanning the valley below. Day 1 passed slowly. Nothing but heat and flies and the occasional lizard. The other 2 Marines, Corporal Davies and Lance Corporal Park, took turns on watch while Maya and Rivera studied the terrain, memorizing every rock, every shadow, every possible hide position. "There," Maya said, pointing to a cluster of buildings about 3 kilometers out. "That's where I'd be if I was them. Good sight lines, multiple exits, close enough to the road for an ambush." Rivera glassed the area with binoculars. "Makes sense. We'll watch it close." Night brought relief from the heat but added new problems. Temperatures dropped fast in the desert. What had been an oven at noon was a freezer by midnight. Maya huddled in her sleeping bag, trying to rest while Park took watch. She dreamed about Tommy. He was playing basketball, laughing, alive. Then the sound of gunfire, and he was falling. And Maya was running but couldn't reach him, couldn't save him, could only watch as everything fell apart. She woke with a start. Rivera's hand was on her shoulder. "Easy," he said quietly. "Just a dream." Maya sat up, wiping sweat from her face despite the cold. "What time is it?" "Oh, 400, dawn soon. You should see this." She followed him to the observation point. The valley below was filled with mist, thick white fog that had rolled in during the night. Through it, like ghosts, she could see movement. "How many?" she whispered. "At least 20, maybe more. They're using the fog for cover, trying to move without being seen." Maya got behind her rifle, settling into position. The mist made everything harder. Shapes appeared and disappeared. Distances were impossible to judge. Then her tactical display blinked. New technology, battlefield sensors that could detect movement and body heat even through fog. A faint alert scrolled across the small screen mounted to her scope. "Enemies 3,000 meters out. 3,000 meters." The absolute edge of her effective range. At that distance, she wasn't just shooting at a target. She was shooting at mathematics, wind, gravity, the rotation of the Earth itself. Through her scope, enhanced by thermal imaging, she could see them now. A large group, heavily armed, moving toward the village of Hadra. The same village where a coalition medical team was providing care to civilians. The team had no security, just doctors and nurses trying to help. "Rivera, we need comms," he was already trying. "Radio's dead. Something's jamming us. We're on our own." Davies looked at Maya. "What do we do?" "Good question." They were 4 Marines, alone, 15 kilometers from support, watching a force 5 times their size moving toward unsuspecting civilians and medical personnel. By the time they could get help, it would be too late. "I have to take the shot," Maya said. 3,000 meters, Rivera said. "That's beyond spec. Beyond anything we've trained for. You have a better idea?" She didn't wait for an answer. Settled in, checked her dope card, adjusted for wind. 3,000 meters. At this range, the bullet would drop 40 feet. Would take nearly 4 seconds to reach the target. In 4 seconds, a person could move several feet. She wasn't shooting where they were. She was shooting where they'd be, her father's voice in her head. "You control your breath, you control the shot." She picked her target. The lead man, the one who seemed to be giving orders. If she could disrupt their formation, slow them down, maybe buy enough time for the medical team to evacuate. "Wind?" she asked. 3 knots left to right, Rivera said. "All business now." Temperature 72, falling. Maya made her adjustments. 1 shot, that's all she'd get. The moment she fired, her position would be compromised and everyone would scatter. She exhaled, found the space between heartbeats, squeezed, the rifle kicked. Through her scope, she watched the bullet's trajectory, watched it arc across the impossible distance. 4 seconds felt like forever. The target dropped. For a moment, nothing happened. Then chaos. The enemy formation scattered, taking cover, searching for where the shot came from. Contact, someone was shouting. Return fire started, but they didn't know where to aim. Bullets kicked up dust hundreds of meters from Maya's position. Keep shooting, Rivera said. Keep them pinned. Maya worked the bolt, acquired a new target. Another shot. Another hit. The enemy was panicking now, some retreating, some trying to advance, their formation completely broken. Got movement on our 6, Park shouted. 200 meters in closing. Maya's head snapped around. Through the rocks behind them, she saw them. Another enemy squad drawn by the gunfire trying to flank their position. Time to go, Davies said, already packing their gear. But Maya saw something else. Through the mist, a glint, sunlight reflecting off glass. Another scope. Wait, she said. There's someone else out there. Rivera glassed the area. I don't see anything. 3 o'clock, 2,400 meters in the ruins, and then she saw him. Just for a second, a figure in the shadows. Professional position, perfect concealment. Looking right at her, the shadow. That's him, Maya breathed. That's the shadow. Every instinct screamed at her to take the shot. This was the enemy they'd been hunting. This was her chance, but the flanking squad was closing in. Park and Davies were already falling back, laying down covering fire. Rivera grabbed her arm. Chen, we have to move. Now. Maya took one last look through her scope. The shadow was still there, watching her. And then incredibly, he raised his hand, not threatening, just acknowledging. One sniper to another. Then he was gone, vanishing into the ruins like he'd never been there. Maya, Rivera shouted. Let's go. She grabbed her rifle and ran. The next hour was pure chaos, running through the rocks, enemy fire chasing them, calling for extraction on the backup radio. A helicopter finally picked them up 3 kilometers from their original position, taking fire the whole way. Safe on the helicopter, Rivera looked at her. You let him go. We couldn't engage. We were outnumbered, flanked. I'm not criticizing. I'm saying I saw what you did. You had the shot, didn't you? On the shadow? Maya stared out at the desert below. Yeah, I had the shot, but you chose us instead. The mission. Getting us out alive, that's the job, isn't it? Rivera smiled, but it was a sad smile. Yeah, that's the job. Doesn't make it easier, though. Back at base, they learned the medical team had evacuated safely. The enemy attack had been disrupted. Lives saved. Mission success. But that night, Maya couldn't stop thinking about that moment. The shadow watching her. That raised hand. What did it mean? Respect? Warning? A promise of next time? She'd let him go. Made the right tactical decision. But she knew deep in her bones that this wasn't over. They'd meet again. And next time, one of them wouldn't walk away. The question was, which one? Rivera was hit 3 days later, not during some dramatic firefight. Not while they were out hunting the shadow. Just a random mortar round that hit the base during breakfast. Wrong place, wrong time. The same words they'd used about Tommy. Maya was at the medical tent within minutes. Rivera was conscious, which was good. The shrapnel had torn through his leg, which was bad. The doctors were saying he'd live, but his deployment was over. Hey, he said when he saw her trying to smile through the pain. Guess I'm getting out of this heat after all. You're an idiot, Maya said, surprised at how tight her throat felt. Yeah, well, at least I'm an idiot who's going home. He gripped her hand, suddenly serious. Listen to me. Don't let this place change who you are. Don't let the anger take over. You're here to protect people, remember? Not to get revenge. I remember. Do you? Because I see how you look when someone mentions the shadow. Like you're hunting something personal. That's how people get killed out here. They stop thinking about the mission and start thinking about settling scores. Maya wanted to argue, but she couldn't. He was right. Every patrol, every mission, part of her had been searching for the shadow. Looking for another chance. You saved my life, Rivera said, back at that observation post. You made the hard call. You chose the mission over the kill. That's what makes you a good Marine. Don't forget that. They evacuated him the next morning. Maya watched the helicopter take off, taking her spotter, her friend, the person who'd kept her sane for the past 2 months. She'd never felt more alone. Her new spotter was Lance Corporal Daniels, 20 years old, fresh from training, eager to prove himself, which meant he'd probably do something stupid and get them both killed. "It's an honor to work with you, Corporal Chen," he said. "I heard about that shot you made. 3,000 meters. That's incredible." "That's the job," Maya said. "And out here, incredible gets you killed if you're not careful. Stay focused, stay quiet, and do exactly what I tell you." He looked hurt, but Maya didn't care. She couldn't afford to care. Not after Rivera. The intelligence briefing came 2 days later. They'd found the shadow, or at least they thought they had. Surveillance drones had spotted unusual activity in the old factory district of a nearby city. Thermal signatures, movement patterns, everything suggested a sniper hide. "We're sending in a team," Captain Rodriguez said. 4-person squad, light and fast. Get in, confirm the target, take him out if possible. "Chen, your lead. Rules of engagement?" Maya asked. "Tight, real tight. There are civilians in the area. We've got reports of families sheltering in some of those buildings. You are weapons free on confirmed hostile targets only. And I mean confirmed. Visual confirmation, positive ID. We're not here to kill civilians." Maya studied the aerial photos. The factory district was a maze. Bombed out buildings, narrow streets, 1,000 places to hide. If the shadow had chosen this location, he'd done it for a reason. "This feels wrong," Daniels said quietly. "It is wrong," Maya replied. "It's a trap, has to be. He knows we're hunting him. He's using the civilian presence as a shield, betting we won't risk collateral damage. So what do? We go anyway, because if we don't, he'll keep killing our people." They moved in at dawn. The city was eerily quiet. Too quiet. Maya's instincts were screaming at her, but they pressed on. The ambush came from nowhere. 1 second they were moving through an empty street. The next, gunfire erupted from 3 different directions. The squad scattered, taking cover behind rubble and burnt-out cars. "Contact! Multiple hostiles!" Davies was on the radio calling for support, but Maya barely heard him. She was scanning, searching. "Where are you? Where are you hiding?" Then she saw it. The glint. Same as before, a scope. Catching the light for just a fraction of a second, a minaret 2,400 meters away. Perfect position, perfect angle. Of course that's where he'd be. She lined up the shot, but her scope showed something else. Thermal signatures in the building below the minaret. Multiple people. Small children. "There are civilians in that building," Daniel said, reading her scope's display. "A family. Maybe more." Maya's finger rested on the trigger. 1 shot, that's all it would take. The shadow was right there. The enemy who'd killed 12 of her people. The ghost they'd been hunting for months. But there were children in the building below. And if she missed? If the bullet overpenetrated? If anything went wrong? "Chen, we need to move," Davies shouted. "We're pinned down." Through her scope, Maya saw the shadow. Actually saw his face for the first time. Older than she expected. Tired. Human. He was looking at her through his own scope. They were looking at each other across nearly a mile of distance, 2 snipers, 2 people who'd chosen the same impossible profession. She thought about Rivera's words. "You're here to protect people, not to get revenge." She thought about Tommy, about all the innocent people who died because someone with a gun didn't care who they hit. She thought about her father, sitting on that porch, living with whatever decisions he'd made in his war, and she made her choice. Instead of shooting at the shadow, Maya adjusted her aim. The minaret itself, the old stone structure, was already damaged from years of bombing. She knew exactly where to hit it. "What are you doing?" Daniels asked. "Changing the game," she fired. Not at a person. At the structure. 3 shots precisely placed at the minaret's weak points. The ancient stone cracked, shifted. The whole tower tilted. Through her scope, she saw the shadow's face change from concentration to shock. He was moving, abandoning his position as the minaret threatened to collapse. "Suppressing fire," Maya shouted. "Keep them pinned while we extract." The squad laid down fire, not to kill but to cover their escape. They moved fast, taking advantage of the chaos, the enemy confused about what was happening. They made it out. Barely. 2 wounded, but everyone alive. Back at base, Maya was called into Rodriguez's office. She expected discipline, expected questions about why she hadn't taken the kill shot. Instead, Rodriguez just looked at her for a long moment. The family in that building. Mother, 3 children, grandmother. They survived because of your decision. The shadow got away, Maya said. The shadow got away. But those civilians lived, and our people got out. Sometimes that's the win, Chen. It doesn't feel like a win. It never does. But you made the hard call. The right call. That's what separates us from them. That night, Maya got a message that Rivera had landed safely stateside. He was going to be okay. Physical therapy. Months of recovery, but he'd walk again. She also got intelligence that changed everything. The shadow had been captured. Not by coalition forces, by local military, 3 days after the factory district incident. He'd been trying to make his way home out of ammunition, exhausted. The file that came with the report told a story. The shadow's real name was Karim, former civil engineer. His family had been killed in sectarian violence. He'd learned to shoot to protect his village. Then he'd started hunting the people he blamed for his family's death. Another person destroyed by war, another person trying to protect someone, just like her. Just like Rivera. Just like all of them. Maya sat outside and looked at the mountains. Somewhere in America, Rivera was probably looking at different mountains, trying to figure out how to be normal again. Somewhere in a detention facility, Karim was probably wondering how his life had come to this. And Maya was here, trying to understand what it all meant. She'd come here for purpose, for Tommy. To prevent other people from dying randomly, senselessly. But every solution seemed to create new problems. Every life saved meant someone else became the shadow. Her deployment was almost over. 2 more weeks, then home. Back to Pennsylvania, to her parents, to a life that would never quite fit right again. But she'd made a decision. When she got home, she'd do what Rivera had suggested. She'd train new snipers, pass on the skills, but more than that, pass on the wisdom. The understanding that pulling the trigger was easy. Living with it was the hard part. And maybe, just maybe, she'd teach them that sometimes the hardest shot was the one you didn't take. Home was strange. That's the only word Maya could find for it. Strange and too quiet and full of people who had no idea what to say to her. Her mother cried when she saw her at the airport. Her father just looked at her with those knowing eyes and pulled her into a hug. He didn't ask questions. He understood. Pennsylvania in autumn was beautiful. Orange and red leaves, cool air, everything peaceful and normal. Maya hated it. Not the place, but the feeling. Like she was wearing clothes that didn't fit anymore. Like she was supposed to be someone she wasn't sure she could be. Rivera called 3 days after she got back. His voice sounded good, strong. Hey, shooter. How's civilian life treating you? It's weird. Everything's weird. How are you? Learning to walk again. Doctors say I'll have a limp, but I'll walk. Better than the alternative. He paused. You doing okay, really? I don't know. I keep waiting for something to happen. Like my brain doesn't understand that nobody's shooting at me here. Yeah. That takes a while. Listen, there's a group I go to. Other veterans. We just talk. No pressure, no judgment. Might help. Maybe. Maya, go, trust me. You can't do this alone. She didn't go. Not at first. She spent her days helping her father fix up the house, doing normal things, pretending everything was fine. But at night she dreamed. The mountains. The scope. That moment looking at the shadow, deciding not to shoot. She dreamed about Tommy too. But now the dreams were different. He wasn't just dying. He was asking her, was it worth it? Did it change anything? She didn't have an answer. 2 weeks after coming home, she got orders for her next assignment. Instructor duty at Scout Sniper School. They wanted her to train the next generation. Teach them everything she'd learned. She called Rivera. They want me to be an instructor. That's great. You'll be good at it. Will I? What am I supposed to teach them? How to kill people. How to live with it afterwards. Both, all of it. You teach them the technical stuff, sure. But more important, you teach them what you learned out there. About the hard decisions. About knowing when to shoot and when not to. I'm not sure I learned anything. I'm not sure any of it made sense. It doesn't have to make sense, Maya. It just has to matter. And what you did out there mattered. You saved lives, including mine. So now you get to help other people do the same thing. She reported to Quantico 3 months later. The base looked exactly the same, but she was different. The eager recruit who'd laid in the mud, desperate to prove herself, was gone. In her place was someone harder, sadder, but maybe wiser too. Her first class was 42 recruits. All young, all eager, all thinking they knew what they were signing up for. Just like she'd been. She stood in front of them, these kids who wanted to be snipers, and tried to figure out what to say. "Most of you think this training is about shooting," she began, "about making impossible shots at impossible distances. And yeah, that's part of it. We'll teach you the math, the wind reading, the stalking, all the technical stuff. But that's the easy part." She paused, looking at their faces, so young, so certain. "The hard part is living with it. Every shot you take, every decision you make, you carry it with you forever. The ones you take and the ones you don't, they echo. They follow you home. They wake you up at night." The room was completely silent. "Out there, you'll be the eyes for your unit. The early warning system. Someone will send you a message. Enemies 3,000 meters out, and you'll have to decide what to do. Engage or wait. Shoot or don't. And people will live or die based on that decision. Not because of luck. Not because of fate. Because of you." One recruit raised his hand. Barely looked 18. "How do you deal with that?" "The pressure." Maya thought about Tommy, about Rivera, about Kareem the Shadow sitting in a detention cell, about all the faces that appeared in her dreams. You remember that it matters. Every decision, every shot, every moment. You remember that you're not doing this because you like it. You're doing this so other people don't have to, so the people back home can be safe. So your brothers and sisters in uniform have someone watching their backs. She walked to the window, looking out at the range where she'd trained. And you remember that you're human. You're not a machine. You're a person making impossible choices in impossible situations. Sometimes you'll make the right call. Sometimes you won't. But you do your best and then you live with it. Another recruit spoke up. "What if you make the wrong choice? Then you learn from it. You get better. You make sure the next choice is better. But you don't let it destroy you. Because if you're destroyed, you can't protect anyone else." The training went on for months. Maya taught them everything. The technical skills, the mathematics, the fieldcraft. But more than that, she taught them about the weight, about the responsibility, about being the person who had to make decisions that no one should have to make. One day she got a letter. No return address. Inside was a single photograph. Kareem, the Shadow, standing with what looked like his family before the war. Happy, normal, human. On the back, someone had written in English, "He wanted you to know he understood. What you did at the minaret. You could have killed him. You chose differently. He died 3 months ago. Pneumonia. But he died knowing that not everyone is a monster." Maya stared at that photo for a long time. Then she put it in her desk drawer, along with a photo of Tommy and a patch from Rivera's uniform that he'd sent her. Rivera visited that spring. Walking with a cane, but walking. They sat on the observation tower overlooking the range, watching recruits attempt their qualification shots. "You're good at this," Rivera said. "Teaching. You're making a difference." "Am I? I'm just teaching more people how to kill." "No, you're teaching them how to protect. There's a difference." "A big one. And you know that difference better than anyone." Maya watched a recruit take a shot. "Clean hit, perfect form." The instructor gave her a thumbs up. The recruit smiled, so proud, so confident, so unaware of what was really coming. "I hope they never have to make the choices we made," Maya said quietly. "They will. That's the world we live in. But because of you, they'll be better prepared. They'll understand that every shot echoes, that every decision matters, that being a sniper isn't about killing, it's about protecting." That night, Maya stood on the rifle range alone, mist rising from the ground, just like that morning in the mountains. She thought about the alert that had changed everything. Enemies 3,000 meters out. She thought about all the decisions that had followed. The shots taken and not taken. The lives saved and lost. The weight of it all carried forward. A young recruit approached, nervous. "Corporal Chen, I wanted to ask, how do you deal with it? When you come home? How do you process everything?" Maya looked at this kid, so earnest, so worried about the future. And she realized that was the answer. You don't process it. You don't get over it. You just carry it forward and try to make it mean something. You remember why you started, Maya said. You find purpose in the pain, and you help the next person do the same thing. That's how you survive, not by forgetting, but by making it matter. The recruit nodded slowly. Thank you, Corporal. After the recruit left, Maya stayed on the range a while longer. The mist was thick now, covering everything. Somewhere out there in the world beyond this base, people were making impossible choices. Soldiers, civilians, People just trying to survive and protect the ones they loved. And here, on this range, she was preparing more people to make those same choices. To look through scopes and see enemies 3,000 meters out and decide what to do next. It wasn't perfect. It wasn't even good, but it was necessary. And maybe that was enough. Maya closed her eyes and let herself remember all of it. The cold mud, the heat, Rivera's smile, the shadow's raised hand, Tommy playing basketball, her father on the porch. Every moment, every choice, every echo. Then she opened her eyes and walked back toward the barracks. Tomorrow there would be more recruits, more training, more people who needed to learn that the hardest shots weren't about distance or wind or mathematics. They were about knowing when to pull the trigger and when to find another way. About understanding that every life in your crosshairs was a person, about making the impossible choices and living with them after. And somehow, impossibly, that had to be enough.